Dear participant, welcome to the second session of today's program. Today we have Dr. Praveen, A.S. Praveen from Veltech Rangarajan Institute of Science and Technology, Associate Professor at Department of Mechanical Engineering, Chennai. Sir has completed his B.Tech and M.Tech from University of Kerala and completed his Trichy in the field of the title of experimental investigation on erosion, wear, and oxidation behavior of nickel-based thermal spray coating, and his expertise in ceramic additive manufacturing. That's why we approached him for a session on additive manufacturing of ceramic materials. So his research interests includes tribology, thermal spray coating, and additive manufacturing of ceramics. He has experience in developing nickel-based composite coating for erosion wear resistant application using thermal spray techniques and the microstructural and mechanical characterization of coatings. Recently, sir developed ceramic structures using direct ink writing, that is 3D printing technique, which has potential application to aeronautical, automotive, electronics, and medical domains. He is having teaching experience of about 8 years and research experience of about 4 years. He has published 13 papers in various in reputed journal, particularly in the field of ceramics, Ceramic International Journal, International Journal of Refractory Metals and Hard Materials, Applied Surface Science, and Material Research Express, and published 4 book chapters in Elsevier reference module in Material Science and Material Engineering. His research H index is 7 and the total number of citation is 240. He is involved very much in research activities. So he is acting as a reviewer for popular Elsevier journals such as Ceramic International, Journal of the Mechanical Behavior of Biomedical Materials and Materials, Additive Manufacturing, Rapid Prototyping, like that. So his expertise is on additive manufacturing technology, particularly in the field of ceramic technology, will be very much useful for the participants attending this basic FPP 3D printing and design. On behalf of Murugappa Polytechnic College and Department of Mechanical Engineering, I am having great pleasure in welcoming Dr. A.S. Praveen, who has readily accepted our invitation to deliver a session for this FTP. At the outset, our thanks to you, sir, and welcome you, sir, for this session. Now the session is yours, sir. You can take it on, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shekhar, sir, for giving this opportunity. I hope I'm audible and we can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Audible as well as, sir. We can view your screen, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
And very good morning to all the participants. And as I said, first I would like to express my sincere thanks to the FDP coordinator, Dr. K. Shekhar, sir, for giving this opportunity. And through this webinar, I am very happy to share my experience and learning, which I gained during last 3 years in the area of 3D printing of ceramics, especially through direct ink writing approach. So we can realize ceramic materials through different additive manufacturing process. We already have gone through the basics of additive manufacturing. So what are the different types of manufacturing process and all. So in that, my talk will be focusing on direct ink writing approach. So how to realize the parts like ceramics through direct ink writing techniques. And before joining Veltech, I was doing my research in the area of thermal spray coating, so which is especially used for erosion wear application, which are the tribological applications. And after joining here, so I was looking to work on a new area. So based on that, only I took this because I have some background on ceramics material. So I thought, why don't we start processing of ceramic materials through 3D printing technique? So which is a disruptive technology now, right? So all the researchers, all the faculties are now switching towards doing research in the area of 3D printing. So it has a wide potential. So that's why it is called a disruptive technology. So all the industries, all the academicians are looking for a 3D printing techniques for their own applications. Even it can be an automobile, or it can be an aerospace, or it can be a biomedical application. So 3D printing has a wide scope in the area of biomedical applications. I'll be covering some aspects of bioceramics and how to synthesize the bioceramics using directing writing technique. So my presentation has three parts. So in the first part, I will be going through the basics of additive manufacturing, even though it is already covered by some other resource person, I hope so. So in order to give the continuity for my presentations, I will be covering the basic 9 additive manufacturing process. And if time permits, I will show you the video also of that 7 additive manufacturing process. Okay, then second phase, I'll be in detail, we'll be seeing that directing writing approach. So how to synthesize the ceramic part using directing writing. What are the factors? What are the key elements you have to consider for directing writing technique? And the last phase, I mentioned the third phase will be on some case studies, and I'll be showing some 3D printed part which we have done at Weldtech Composite Research Lab using directing writing technique. And finally, some case studies, already some published works are there. So I will show you, I will go through that recent work also. So this is how I plan my talk. And finally, the 10 minutes for Q&A sections, right? So before going to the topic, so you should know why additive manufacturing is very important. Okay. So let me ask you this question. So how do you make things? So let me how do you convert a chunk of material, bulk material, into something useful product like this? You can see you have a bulk material, a box of material like this. So you want to make a useful product like this. So for example, it's a spanner. So how do you do that? How do you make this spanner? So there are different techniques are there, different manufacturing approaches are there. So either you can use formative manufacturing technique, or you can use subtractive manufacturing techniques. So and the third and most recent technique is additive manufacturing technique. Now let's see these three categories in little bit in a briefer way. So let's see. So what is subtractive manufacturing? So I hope all of you are from mechanical background or manufacturing background. You know that subtractive manufacturing is nothing but we will remove the material from the bulk chunk of material by using some different tooling approach. So the most commonly used one is CNC machines are machining process like milling, grinding, drilling. So all are comes under the subtractive manufacturing. So we will remove the material from that bulk material so as to get your desired product. So final product. So here you need some kind of specific tooling. So you need different kind of tooling to get a different realize the different parts. Okay. Then we'll move to the next category, which is called formative process. So in formative process, we can it will comes under forming. So you know that what is forming? It's like a smithy, right? So we will take that bulk material and we will apply some force to deform its shape so as to get your desired product. Okay, so it can be done at a cold condition or a hot condition. Okay. Then, so casting also comes under formative manufacturing process. In casting, what we'll do is we will. So here you have a mold of hollow cavity, which will give you a desired shape. So in that we will pour the molten metal, and we'll give some sufficient time for cooling, and we'll remove that this mold, so that we'll get the desired shape. So these are the basic manufacturing process. So these techniques are so centuries old. So these techniques have been around us for a long time. So these are very old and conventional techniques. So the recent technique, so which is we'll be calling, which we are very much interested, is additive manufacturing process. Why all are interested in additive manufacturing is, so here we can generate a complex shape of components and at a easier or in a faster rate. So there is no complexity required. So that's what. So nowadays all the additive manufacturing process are very much interest in the industry or in academicians. Okay, so all the researchers or industry people are moving towards developing additive manufacturing techniques for their own applications. Okay, so so here this topic is especially for ceramics. So conventionally the ceramics are processed using spark plasma sintering or hot pressing or pressureless sintering, slip casting. Some conventional techniques are there, but these techniques have some limitation that we can use these techniques for fabricating simple geometry with a moderate size. It's not a big size, with a moderate size. And also the processing of ceramic material is very challenging because uh, uh, when we machine this ceramic material, it will cause breaking because of its brittleness. Okay, so that the researchers are very much interested in developing ceramics through 3D printing. So in 3D printing, we can fabricate almost a near net shape structure, which is having some kind of complexity. So with no time, we can make that. Okay. So then another question I want to ask you is that what is additive manufacturing and 3D printing? So whether both are same or both are different or they can be interchangeable, that we can use it synonymously. Is it? But in some, so nowadays all are saying so all the processes. So as per ASTM standard, there are seven manufacturing additive manufacturing processes are there. So all are will be considering as a either additive manufacturing or 3D printing. But you should understand that there is some difference between additive manufacturing and 3D printing. So here you can see the definition given by the ASTM, so American Society for Testing and Materials. They have formulated a committee, especially for additive manufacturing technology, in order to differentiate each process. In order to standardize each additive manufacturing process, they created this committee, and they have given the definition for additive manufacturing in such a way that it's called a process of joining materials to make objects from 3D model. You all know that. So during this 4 days of this course, you may know that you need a 3D model data, right, for making any product with additive manufacturing techniques. So it starts from additive 3D model data, and we will develop this structure by adding the material layer by layer. Deposition will take place. But you see the definition given by 3D printing is that the fabrication of object, we will fabricate or realize the part through the deposition of material through a print head or a nozzle or any other printing technology. So in additive manufacturing technique, it is not necessary to have a nozzle kind of thing. Okay, any process which will have a layer by layer deposition, we can be considered as a AM. So this is the difference between additive manufacturing and 3D printing. I hope that, but nowadays the people in this additive manufacturing field, they are using this term interchangeably. So either they will use additive manufacturing or a 3D printing. So, but you should understand that there is a difference is there between additive manufacturing and 3D printing. Okay, so you can see this definition in ASTM standards. So then. So now, so recent technique, as I told you, the reason in all the areas we are using additive manufacturing technique. Whether this formative, the other conventional technique like formative and subtractive manufacturing, is whether it is not suitable or whether we have to eliminate these processes. We have to only focus on additive manufacturing. That is the question. But if you see that there is some peculiarities there when we consider for additive manufacturing techniques. So additive manufacturing is not suitable for mass production. So from this graph itself, it is clear that the parts which is required for more number, means in hundreds or thousands, we have to go for our conventional manufacturing techniques. So when we have to choose additive manufacturing is when we require a part with complex design and at a low volume. With only few numbers we can go for additive manufacturing. So this is, so I will tell you an example. So if you consider biomedical application, so in biomedical application we need to fabricate complex. Suppose if you are designing any implant, so that implant design will vary from patient to patient, one person to another person. So that time we can use the additive manufacturing techniques. The conventional technique like the formatting and subtractive manufacturing will be it's not suitable for fabricating a complex shape, which is a low number of part you have to produce. So that's why this additive manufacturing technique is very popular in biomedical application. So we have to use the subtract and formative process also. So we cannot fully eliminate this conventional fabrication techniques. Okay, so from this graph it is well clear. And let's see what are its advantages and disadvantages of additive manufacturing technique. So as I told you, additive manufacturing is adding material in a layer by layer fashion. So let's see the advantages of additive manufacturing. So as I mentioned earlier, whenever you require to fabricate any complex geometry, especially for a biomedical application, we have to rely on additive manufacturing, because in additive manufacturing we can easily fabricate this complex geometry at a very faster rate. So if you are going for a conventional, there you have to process the material through different kind of processing techniques. First you have to use milling, then drilling, grinding. So that is very complex process and also time consuming. So but in the case of biomedical application, we cannot develop an implant. We have to develop the implant in a very short period of time, because the patient is suffering from injuries, right? So we have to replace that implant at a very faster rate. So that can be achieved in this additive manufacturing technique, and also the rapid prototyping. See, the additive manufacturing earlier used for rapid prototyping technique. So, but nowadays we are using this technique for realizing the final component. So conventional rapid prototyping, what happens? So we have to, if there is any design modification, we have to fabricate new mold or a new cast for developing the new part. But in 3D printing, so what you can do is only you just change the CAD model data. So that is enough. So we can directly print that part. So in the additive manufacturing, that's a rapid, the feasibility of and another advantage is minimizing the waste. So, so here I would like to introduce a term which is called buy to fly ratio. So in buy to fly ratio is nothing but the material which you are the initial weight of the material divided by the weight of the final product. So initially we will take a chunk of material, bulk of material. For example, you say it has 100 kilogram. So and final product is having 10 kilograms. So then buy to fly ratio is 100 divided by 10. So the ratio is 10. Okay, so there the wastage is very high in the case of a subtractive manufacturing process. But if you see the additive manufacturing process, so where we are taking that material and which will be extruded through some nozzle, and we are directly printing that product. And there may be some wastage will comes when it is taken for a post-processing operation in order to give some smooth, in order to improve its surface finish. There, for example, say in the case of additive manufacturing, we will be taking only 15 kg of material, and the final product is having 10 kg. So that 15 by 10, so 1.5 is the ratio. So in the additive manufacturing process, we can reduce the wastage of material. So that is the biggest advantage. So and obviously we can improve the cost effectiveness also, because this 3D printing is a one-step process. So one-step process means in the case of other conventional process, the product has to go through the different stages of processing machining, milling, and grinding, drilling, etc. But in direct means additive manufacturing process, it's a one-step process. So obviously you can reduce the cost also. And even though it has some advantages like this, it has some disadvantages also. So the disadvantages is that we cannot build a big part. Okay. So the size of the printer is limited, because in FDM we see fusion deposition modeling. So the bed size may be 150 to 150 size. So if you want to print a part which is more than that, what you have to do is you have to split the part into pieces, small components. Then we have to assemble. That is one of the disadvantages. But they are nowadays we are also solving this problem by building a printer which is having a larger bed size. And another disadvantage is that the material, the only limited materials are available in fabricating the parts with this ceramic or metals. But see, the thing is that those who are fabricating this machine, 3D printing machine, they'll along with the printer itself, they'll give some standard materials. Okay, so we have to use that standard material when we operate that machine. So that is one of the biggest limitations. So nowadays, that lot of research is going on in developing different types of ceramics and different types of composites. So there is a lot of challenges associated with the printing or developing of composite materials also. Okay. So then, so all of you know that the surface finish we obtained in additive manufacturing is poor compared to our conventional manufacturing process. So because it is a layer by layer deposition, you can see the traces of layer on the printed part. So then we have to take it for some post-processing operations like sandblasting or any chemical sorting. Some kind of post-processing is required. Some machining also sometimes may be required to give a good surface finish. So that is another disadvantages of 3D printing. Then, so the previous I already shown that when the number of part to be produced is more, so the number is more, the volume is more. Obviously, you have to go for conventional fabrication process. So here the number of part to be printed is part which are produced through additive manufacturing is less, because the limited bed size and other things. But the mass customization of the part, or master customization of the part is feasible and easily we can execute in the additive manufacturing. That's a biggest advantages. So anyway, all the process have its own advantages, plus and minus, but you always look for the positive aspects and also try to minimize the disadvantages. So here I would like to show the two best examples. So the first one, what you can see is GE fuel nozzle, so which is used for a LEAP engine fuel nozzle. And initially, before introducing this additive manufacturing technique, how they have done this part is so by assembling around 20 different pieces, and they will weld it, and it will be subjected to some machining process. Then that's how they fabricated this fuel nozzle. But with the help of additive manufacturing, now they are able to fabricate this component as a single piece, in a single stretch, in single machining setup or machine setup. They can fabricate this component. So with that, what happened is they could reduce the weight of the component by 25%. So 25%. Not only that, their cost associated with the fabricating this component also improved. So pretty much improved, and they have reduced that inventory cost by some 80 to 90%, and also the durability of this component also got improved. So if you say the advantages of additive manufacturing, if you search it in Google, so you can see this example. And the second example you can see is the seat buckle. So this is an aircraft seat buckle in a commercial flight or some passenger flight. You can see these seat buckles are there. But with introducing this additive manufacturing technique, so initially they will be using seat buckle of stainless steel, which is of having a weight of 155 gram, 150 around something 150 grams. It was there. So with the help of additive manufacturing, with the help of topology optimization, they could develop a complex shape like this. So they could develop a new product like this with the titanium. So with this, they could reduce the weight to from 150 to around 70 gram. They could so they achieved 70 gram. This is the final 3D printed part, which is having a 70 gram. So thereby they could achieve a 50 around 50 percentage of weight reduction they achieved. You know that when you know that that's a passenger aircraft is having around 500 to 800 seat, so Airbus 380 or something. So if you reduce that one seat bucket weight by 55 percentage, so we can the total weight of the aircraft we can reduce by some 72 kg or something we can reduce if it is having an 800 or 500 seat. So thereby, what is the advantage is ultimately the all the airline industries are trying to save their fuel consumption, right? Because 25 percentage of their operating costs is for the they are investing for the fuel expenses. So even if you could reduce the weight of the aircraft, any component by any 0.5 kg of mass, we can save the fuel by around 100 liters per year. They can. So there is some statistics there. So all the industries, all the aerospace industries are trying to implement these kind of design to reduce the weight of the aircraft. So then let's see what is additive manufacturing. As I told, I'll be covering some of the basics of additive manufacturing. So additive manufacturing is a process by which we can fabricate the component in a layer by layer fashion. The first thing, so the basic thing you require is a digital data. So you need a 3D model data, which is to be fabricated. You should have that. So how we can create that data? So nowadays there are standard 3D modeling softwares are there. Fusion 360, CATIA, ProE. There are different varieties of softwares. In that software, you can create that 3D model. Okay, and so some other technique also there. So where we can use the laser or optical scanners, for so if you scan that object which is to be printed, so using some image processing software, you can create the 3D data. And the third technique which we widely used in biomedical application is from the CT scan, that is CT scan data and MRI scan data also, we can develop the 3D model data. So for that, in biomedical application, there are some sophisticated softwares are there, image processing software like Mimics, and so Mimics is widely used, but it is very expensive. So if you are a beginner in, so someone is doing some research in biomedical application, you can use ITK Snap. ITK Snap, that's a free software. Using that software, you can analyze the CT scan data. So CT scan data is a series of images. So when you analyze through the software, you can, with that image data, you can create the 3D model. So if you want to develop any implant for any biomedical application, we have to use this technique. So we have to process we have to take the CT scan of the damaged part or any broken bone. We have to take the CT scan of that part or MRI scan. From that MRI scan data, you can process through the software so as to develop the 3D model. So that's the first step. And the second step, so we'll be converting that to the STL file. So STL file is nothing but it describes the model of, it's a surface of that object. So the STL is nothing but it's called a stereolithography or standard triangle language or standard tessellated language. The part will be discretized or tessellated into in the form of a triangles. So why we are using triangle is that any shape we can divide into a we can tessellate it into triangle shape, and If you want to improve the quality of this product, you have to increase the number of triangles. Okay, so you have to increase the tessellation rate also. So if you increase the number of triangles, your resolution of this product will also increase, and your quality of the final product will be very high. Okay, so this is the usual process. So then this STL file will be processed in a slicing software. So slicing software, what it gives is, so it will give the G codes. You know, the G code are the numerical codes which is used for CNC programming. So CNC machine work based on the G code. So these slicing software is capable enough to create the G code for this sliced file. Okay, so it will give the tool path of that product which is to be fabricated in a layer by layer fashion. So there in the slicing software, so I hope that you have gone through some hands-on training of this slicing software. Also, some sections are already there, I think. Okay, so in the slicing software, you can process this. You can set the printing parameters like layer height and what is the printing speed and whether the support is required or not, a manipulation of that file, and the print orientation and the fill pattern, infill density and all. So we can define in this slicing software. So the output from this slicing software will define that layer, this one, the toolpath for each layer, where it has to deposit the material. All the details will be given in the form of G code. So that will be processed, that will be transferred to a mini 3D printing machine. So and also we have to do some initial settings, like we have to feed that, we have to load the filament in the case of a FDM, and we have, if you want, means bed has to be heated based on your what kind of material you are using. So the machine setting will differ from techniques to techniques. Okay, and finally we'll get the decide option. So this is the generic AM process, where whatever the technique you are using, this is this procedure you have to follow. And finally we will get the 3D object. That 3D object will be subjected to some kind of post process. As I told you, one of the disadvantages, its surface quality. The surface quality means the roughness will be more for a 3D printed part. So we have to take it for post processing operation like this one, sandblasting, chemical shocking, any kind of machining process, surface finishing process we have to adopt to get the final desired shape. Okay, so this is the additive manufacturing process. So as per ASTM F27 committee, they have classified this additive manufacturing into 7 categories. So binder jetting technique, powder bed fusion technique, material jetting, material extrusion technique, and sheet lamination, watt photopolymerization, that's called stereolithography, directed energy deposition. And so in this talk, I'll be focusing on the material extrusion technique. Okay, so you already you have gone through these the basic classification of additive manufacturing process. With that assumptions, I'm moving to direct ink writing technique. So direct ink writing technique is similar to material extrusion. So you all are familiarized with the FDM process, right? So FDM process is a material extrusion process. In FDM, what happens is the material which is to be printed in the form of a wire form, filament form, so which will be fed into a nozzle, so heated nozzle. So the heated nozzle will be heated to a temperature which is sufficient enough to melt the filament. So in the case of a polylactic acid, the PLA, so the usual temperature will be around 200 to 220 degrees Celsius. So that if you apply that heat to a heated nozzle, and the material will get melted and will flow through that tiny nozzle, the nozzle of diameter of 0.4 mm. So thereby the deposition is taking place. So that process path and everything you have to create using the slicing software. So that is a material extrusion process. Okay, so so in the today discussion also material extrusion process, but there is some slight difference from FDM process. Okay, So we'll move on to that second phase of my talk, which deals with the direct ink writing techniques. As I told you, direct ink writing is an extrusion-based additive manufacturing techniques. So in this, what you need is you need a material which is in the form of a liquid phase. It can be an ink or it can be a gel, whatever it is. So that gel will be extruded through a small nozzle. Here you can see in the left hand side. So you can see. So this is the. So this is the extrude barrel. Okay. So this is a barrel. So at the end of the barrel, you have a nozzle. This barrel will be filled with a suitable slurry, and which will be extruded through with the help of a pneumatic or some mechanical means, so that the slurry will come out from this tiny nozzle, and this material will be deposited based on your tool path, which will be created in the slicing software. Okay, so this technique, so there is some slight difference between direct ink writing and FDM, so I will come to that in the next slide. So through this technique, so we were able to synthesize the ceramic material. That is one of the advantages. See, previously we have seen there are 7 methods of doing additive manufacturing. These 7 methods are suitable for fabricating ceramic materials. But why I have choose this direct ink writing is, so if you see in the case of any powder bed, that is SLM and SLS, selective laser metering and selective laser sintering. These machines may cost around 4 crore. Okay, and there you need to fabricate a powder bed, and we need an expensive laser. But if you see in the direct ink writing techniques, we don't need that kind of expensive thing. So here we only need a syringe barrel and some dispensing mechanism. Okay, so that's why I started doing. So because institute like us, we have a lot of constraint on financial constraint. So I thought of doing or realizing the ceramic through direct ink writing. So this technique has wide scope. So this can be used for bioprinting and food printing also. So food printing and all based on this direct ink writing techniques. So here you can see the right hand side, you can see that different types of print pattern or printing features which is possible through this direct ink writing. So here you can see the fully spaced solid part, you can print it, and some structures with high aspect ratio. So the diameter to length ratio, height ratio, we can fabricate through this technique. And also this spanning structure, lattice structure. So this is very important. Lattice structures we will be using widely for realizing that. So you can see here for a biomedical application. And also some limitations are there. This technique are not good for fabricating a floating or cantilever structure like this. Okay, some extent we can do with the help of some support structure. So some sacrificial material we have to introduce here, and after cross-processing, this sacrificial material will get dissolved in that your post-processing medium, so that we can achieve this one. So, but that is not fully achievable through this technique. But even though we can develop these structures, these features through direct ink writing technique, the challenge is that the feature size and resolution depends on the ink rheology. So ink rheology means, as I told you, here you have to make an ink like this. So if you want to fabricate a metal ink, ceramic ink, or a composite ink, the ink should be printable, right? So that is very important. So the print should be printable. So there are some characteristics are there associated with the printability of ink, like viscosity. That is called a rheological characteristic. It should have some shear thinning effect, and so I will explain that in the coming slides. Okay, so the very biggest challenge is that you have to develop that ink of sufficient rheology, so that you will able to realize these features like this. So what is the importance of the rheological features? I will explain in the coming slides. Okay, so this is the basic difference between direct ink writing and fused deposition modeling. I hope all of you are familiar with this FDM printer. Okay, so here you have a filament. So filament will be melted at this hot end nozzle or heated nozzle with a sufficient temperature. Okay, so then that metal will be deposited on a printed layer on a bed, and immediately the solidification or the cooling will take place and the material will get the sufficient strength. But here what happens is we will the starting point, the starting part is that we'll create a suitable ink with some suitable binder or some suitable dispersant, with a suitable ceramic material with a suitable size and shape. Will you with that we'll create the ink. That ink will be dispersed through different mechanisms. So it can be a pneumatic, or it can be a mechanical, or it can be a screw extrusion. So we'll dispersing it through a tiny nozzle. So this design is based on your requirement. Okay. So here the very important factor is its rheological properties, whether the ink is extrudable or not, printability. That is a very challenging. So the challenging or challenging feature of directing writing is the preparation of the ink, suitable ink. The ink design is very important. So if anyone is wish to work on directing writing, you should have definitely you should have some collaboration with some chemistry people, so that they can give you or they can suggest you the suitable binder and suitable solvent, dispersant, etc. Okay.
Models are printed from. You can print from any number of materials, from plastics, metal, or ceramic, even chocolate. Our printer has two main moving parts: the print plane.
So here you can see in the left-hand side, it's a directing writing techniques, which is, this system was created by Harvard University. So Professor Lewis. So they will be using this technique for creating the ceramic, porous ceramics. See, this is the basic of how a directing writing printer works. So this is how we can realize the part using directing writing. So you see, here you have to get a continuous flow. So if it is, it should not get any clogging. So if it is get clogging means the proper deposition won't take place. So this clogging and all depends on its rheological properties and how much pressure we are applying, what is the nozzle size, everything. It's dependent on. So in the coming slides, we will be seeing each factors, how these factors are going to influence the directing writing. So, I referred a lot of papers, and based on that, we created a 3D printing, which was based on the directing writing technique. So, this is a conventional FDM printer. So, what we done is we removed that nozzle, heated nozzle. Instead of that, we fixed a barrel like this. This is the dispersing barrel where we will be filling the ceramic ink. Okay. So we started in a very humble way. So this is the barrel. So where we'll fill the ceramic ink. The ceramic ink will have sufficient suitable rheological properties, and that end the end of the barrel will be fitted with a nozzle like this. So you have varieties of nozzle size 0.6 to 1.6 based on your feature size. You can select. Okay. So and as a how we are dispersing this ink to this bed is with the help of a pneumatic control. So we prefer the pneumatic control. So why I prefer pneumatic, I will explain in a short while. Okay. So this is the print table. So this is nothing but, so we just modified the 3D printer, FDM printer, by replacing the heated nozzle. Okay, the rest of the thing is same. So only we introduced is this dispersing barrel and its extrusion system. Okay. So if anyone wish to work, so we can work together, and if you need any help on this area, I can definitely help you. So because there is a lot of scope so those who are beginners in this research, they can choose this area, I hope. So this is a complete schematic representation of the printing process. So as I told you, so some standard AM process, generic process we have to adopt. So first we have to create the part which is to be printed or which is to be fabricated. That part 3D model we have to create. Then that will be inputted into a slicing software. So there are different slicing softwares are there, Cura, Slice 3R, and Flash Force, and all. Using that we can slice it. So slicing will give the layer data. Okay, so that can be given to the control system, machine control system, and so here I will be filling that barrel, dispersing barrel with a suitable printable ink, and I will apply the pressure through a air compressor, pneumatic pressure I will be applying. I can control the pressure value also, so that the proper deposition of the slurry will take place. So this is how the direct ink writing process based on the pneumatic extrusion system, how it works. Okay. So the main component in this direct ink writing is dispersing system. So as I told you, we can, so dispersing means anyway we have to eject the slurry inside the barrel to the print bed so as to get the desired product. So for that we can choose a different dispersing system like a pneumatic dispersing system and piston based dispersing system and screw based extrusion system. So in the pneumatic based extrusion system, so here you can, this end of this barrel will be fitted with the valve. The valve will be actuated with help of a pressure. So this valve will opens and the pressure comes on the top of this ink. Okay. So and with that pressure, it will create a compression inside this ink, so that because of this compression, the fluid will eject. And this is the first case. In the second case, you can see there is a piston. So the pressure applied on this ink will be uniform in this case compared to this. So here, what happens is there can be a delay. Delay of compression of the liquid can take place here. So the improper deposition can also cause because of the delay in the compression. But in this case, you can apply the uniform pressure along this ink so that the uniformity we can ensure. That's why I have taken this piston based extrusion system. So this piston can be actuated with the help of mechanical system or a mechanical screw we can use, or a pneumatic system also we can use here. Then the third type is the screw extrusion system. So so this system is used when you need to need to handle the high viscous ink. So one of the important rheological parameter is the viscosity. So whenever you need to handle a material which is having high viscous, we have to go for a screw. So the material deposition, the flow rate depends on the screw design. That is the what is the pitch and lead of the screw, as well as the rotation of the screw. We can, if we control these two, we can control the flow rate also. Okay, so this can be used whenever you need to deposit a material which is having high viscosity. See, so high viscosity means if you make a slurry with a high concentration of your ceramic particle, we have to go with the screw type of extrusion system. And because of this screw design, here you can ensure the smooth flow of slurry. Okay. But because of that limited, so we are not handling with that high viscous ceramic material. So that's why I prefer piston based barrel, so which is very cheap also. But here you can make this kind of screw extrusion by your own. If there are a lot of free websites are available, if you see that, you can make this kind of extrusion. So that is our next plan. So we started with a piston based extrusion system, so which is sufficient for bioprinting also, because if you use the so bioprinter means this ink will have some kind of cells, right? So if you use this kind of screw type extrusion system, screw type dispersing system, this cell will get damaged because of rotation of the screw. But that we can avoid in the case of a piston-based extrusion system. Okay, so for a bioprinters, I'll comes with this kind of dispersing system. So that also you have to remember. And the another thing is that, as I mentioned here, you have to prepare a suitable ink. So ink should have this following characteristics. So the ink, first of all, the ink should be homogeneous. There should not be any air bubbles. If any air bubbles is there, means the continuous flow of ink during print will be disturbed. Okay, and also it should not cause any agglomeration. Agglomeration means it's forming a chunk of material inside the barrel. So that will cause the chalking of flow. Okay, the nozzle will chalk because of this agglomeration. And you should have a sufficient viscosity so that you don't need to apply much pressure. So very high pressure for the extrusion of the system. So that should be, so that depends on the how much volume of solid material you are adding to that system. Okay. And the third thing you have to consider is the volume fraction of ceramic particle. So how much ceramic particle you are going to add? As a thumb rule, at least you should have a 50% of volume of ceramic particle in your ink design. Why it is? If if the ceramic particle content reduces, means the density of the printed part will also get reduced. So you know that in order to give strength for the ceramic printed part, you have, after printing, you have to take it to sintering process. Okay, so during sintering there may be a shrinkage. It may cause the shrinkage of the component also. So your solid loading means the content, the amount of ceramic particle should be at least 50 to 80% of volume percentage. If it is beyond 80%, the viscosity of the ink will also increases very high. So then your extrusion will become very difficult. So so from the literature, it is found that 50 to 80% is suitable for realizing the ceramic particle without any shrinkage or any part damage. Okay, and the fourth thing what you have to consider is the size of the particle. See, and the selection of nozzle. So you have to choose the size of the particle in such a way that though it should be means the nozzle diameter you have to choose in a way that it should be 50 times the size of the particles. So for example, if you are using a particle, a ceramic particle which is having a 150 nanometer, you have to choose a minimum nozzle diameter of 7.5 micrometer. So this is a thumb rule. So if you are so these things you have to keep in mind before preparing your ink for directing writing technique. Okay. And the third factor is the printing speed. So the printing speed is the at what rate your part is getting fabricated. So in order to get an optimum deposition of the paste, you have to match this VR and VE. VR is nothing but the printing speed, that is called translational speed, and VE is the rate at which the material is getting extruded. See what happens if this VE, the material extrusion, is very high compared to this deposition. So you can see the printed part, you won't get the required part. So it will be, you will get an uneven shape. Okay, so more deposition will take place when the material comes, the V is very high compared to VR. So another case is when the VR is faster, that is the translational speed is very high compared to this VE. So the nozzle will move at a very faster rate and you won't get the proper deposition. The deposition can be discontinuous. Let's see from this image, it will be very clear. See, we are getting a proper continuous deposition. It's because of we are matching the deposition rate, the material extrusion rate, as well as this printing speed, translation speed. So that then only you will get the, so this speed and all will vary with material to material. So will depends on the ink rheology and nozzle diameter. Okay, so that one you have to find it optimum value. You have to find it through some trial and error method. So here you see, here what happens is the printing speed is very high. So you can see the discontinuous in the printed line. Here the printing is taking place at a very faster rate compared to that deposition rate. Okay, so you can see a discontinuous, you won't get a continuous line. But in the third case, you see here you can see a chunk of material, bulk of material. This is happened because of the more deposition. So material exclusion rate is very high compared to its printing speed. Okay, so there is some numerical method to find the best way find the exclusion rate. So you can adopt that, some mathematical expression. So if you apply Bernoulli's equation at all, you can find that. Okay, and so this is very important thing when we go for a directing writing technique. So the rheological properties of the ink which you prepare. So basically, the directing writing process can be divided into 3 stages. So 3 stages, like if you see, so this is the first stage, the flow of ink. So this is the yellow color is the flow of ink through the syringe barrel, right? So the syringe barrel to the print nozzle. So on the top you can see the barrel. So this is the nozzle. So the flow started here, and this you can see that this is the first stage, this red line. And in the second stage, ejection of the ink. So this is the ink from the nozzle. The ejection is taking place. And finally, you can see this purple color where we can see the deposition of ink into the print bed. Okay, the print bed or a already printed line. So underlying printed layer, we can see that. So you see the, for example, you see we have seen that paste, right? Toothpaste. So the when the paste is inside the container, so it will have the high viscosity. But when you apply the pressure, the paste will come out very easily. So so it will have some shear thinning effect. Shear thinning effect is nothing but when you apply some pressure, its viscosity will get reduced. So we need that kind of property here. So when during the ejection from the nozzle to this bed, it should behave like a shear thinning material, shear thinning liquid. Means when you apply the force, its viscosity should get reduced so that the easy flow of the material, ceramic ink through this nozzle will takes place. Okay. After deposition, it should retain its shape, right? So after deposition, you see the paste. So after when we take it to the brush, it will remain on that place, right? That's because it's regain its strength when we remove the load. So that kind of property is required. So otherwise, what happens after printing? Your the printed line will get spread like anything. So that the retention of this printed line, we have to ensure that. See here you see. So because of the insufficient that ceramic particle content, it's got the structure we got distorted. So we are not getting the expected shape, like, so more deposition is taking place here. But with the sufficient solid loading, we are able to achieve a structure, a good structure like this. So that you always remember that we should make a solution. We should make an ink which should have a shear thinning effect. Shear thinning effect is the viscosity should decrease when we apply the strain rate. So that is that we can get it from the viscosity measurement, or when you go for a rheological study. Here you see, so in the first the top you can see it's as I told you, in direct ink writing we can develop a lattice structure or a spanning structure like this. But because of the improper design in the ink or inappropriate solid content, so that the structure got collapsed, right? So the ink this if each printed line don't have that strength to withstand the have the printed line which is printed on the above line. Okay, so this is because of the improper ink design. So but you see, so when we tune that viscosity, or when we, with the help of some adding more solid loading, we are able to achieve the desired spanning structure. Okay, so this is the ink rheology, and the ink design is a very important factor when we go for a direct inwriting of ceramics. Okay, so we have to keep this one in mind. So then, what kind of nozzle shape you have to choose? See, commonly there are two types of nozzle shape. So one is called cylindrical, the other one is called the tapered. So we'll be using tapered nozzle because the flow rate will be very high in the case of a nozzle. So the literature or there is some simulations are already done by the researchers in order to establish that. So as compared to the cylindrical nozzle, the tapered nozzle will give the more flow rate. So when we have to use this tapered nozzle is whenever there is a limitation in applying pressure, extrusion pressure is limited, or your system is not able to give a higher pressure. That case, you have to go for a tapered nozzle. So why it is here at the inlet is here the areas, cross sectional areas gradually vary, so that more deposition of the ink will take place. But here it is a constant the cross-sectional area. So this is proved by some of the researchers. So here you can use tapered nozzle whenever there is a restriction of pressure limitation. So this is a summary of what I have discussed in previously. So obviously there are different factors are there, and their relation we are going to see now. See, one of the parameters is the nozzle size. So you can use nozzle size from zero. 0.1 to 250 micron. So, but you have to see that whether it is 50 times the particle size. You have to choose in nozzle in that way, and also you have to choose the nozzle that what is the resolution of your final object. That also you have to consider. And the viscosity, this range will vary based on the material to material and based on the material morphology. So in order to get a smooth flow, the particle size or particle shape should be in a spherical. If it is spherical, you can ensure the smooth flow of ink. Okay, the printing speed I already told. The printing speed and material extrusion rate you have to match. The commonly used value is 0.1 to 5 mm per second. So this is for to give us some tentative idea. So whatever the literature I have referred, I have just summarizing. And the pressure you can vary from 0.1 to 7. So you know that the flow rate is directly proportional to the pressure. How much material is coming out through the nozzle is depend on the pressure. If you increase the pressure, and the flow rate will also increases. So, but you cannot increase it to a certain level because of the safety reasons. So sometimes these connection between the barrel and nozzle can also will get separated because of the excess pressure. So you have to see that what is the optimum value of giving the pressure. And the another parameter is the stand-off distance. Stand-off distance is nothing but the distance between the print bed and the nozzle. Okay, so obviously, conventionally we will be taking the stand-off distance as size of the nozzle. If we are using a 0.6 mm nozzle, we have to set the stand-off distance or layer thickness as 0.6. If the layer thickness is very low, or what we can see is it will drag the printed line. If already one line is printed, if you are printing another line on top of that, so if the stand-off distance is same as the printed line, so what happens is the nozzle will go into that printed line, printed layer, and it will drag that line. So it will, you won't get that extra dimension. So it will your printed part will get collapsed. Okay. And excess height, the stand-off distance is if it is more than 3 times. So there is a proper deposition. If you are making any spanning structures, you cannot ensure that the proper deposition of the slurry on the printed line. So we have to optimize. So these things so if you read the literature, there is some value they may be mentioned, but it will vary based on your composition, your ink rheology or ink design. It will vary, but these kind of values you can establish with the help of some trial experiment you have to execute. So these are the things which I would like to share with reference to directing writing. What are the factors? What are the different types of dispersing system we have to consider? What are the properties we have to consider for making a suitable ink? So now I would like to share what is the importance of directing writing in realizing bioceramics. So you know that bioceramics will come under biomaterial. So biomaterial means it's a class of material. It can be a ceramic, or it can be a metal, or it can be a polymer. So ceramics are widely used in biomedical application is because of the ceramics are bioactive material. So what is bioactive material is it will the cell can easily grow over this ceramic materials compared to metal. So materials also inert material, but they won't participate in the cell growth and other biological activities. But bioactive ceramics will participate in the cell growth. The cell can grow over that surface. And another class of material is bioresorbable material. Bioresorbable material is nothing but the material will get degraded as the cells grows. Okay, so the example is magnesium. Is used used as a bioresorbable material, and this one ceramic. When it comes to ceramic, tricalcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite will be considered as bioresorbable materials. Okay, so these bioceramics should have some kind of requirements when we consider it for a biomedical applications. So the first and foremost thing is this material which you are selecting should not cause any toxic to the patient, right? So it should not damage your biological system. So usually the ceramic material which is used for biomedical applications are alumina, zirconium, as I told, calcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite, calcium carbonate, and calcium sulfate. These are the bioceramic material which used for biomedical application. And the second thing, second factor you have to consider is it should have some adequate mechanical property. So I would say that so ceramic material has some limitations also. Even though it is biocompatible and it will has some cell growth properties and all, but it has lacking in some mechanical properties like fracture toughness. It's because a law of fracture because of its brittle nature. It is not able to take the shock load. So we cannot use that ceramics for load bearing application. The only option is metal, but metal is not bioactive material, even though it is inert material, but it is not bioactive materials. Okay, so it won't cause any harmful to the patient. Okay, but so that there is a lot of scope for developing composite material for biomedical application. That is what we are focusing. So in our lab also we are trying to mix titanium with tricalcium phosphate in order to realize the part which are suitable for biomedical application. And finally, you have to choose the application. So application means so where we are going to, in the case of biomedical application, where we are going to implant that or where we are going to fix that implant. So it is for a bone application or it is for a bone application, whether it is subjected to a load bearing application. So in the case of load bearing application, as I told you, or a hip replacement joints or something, you have to go for a metal implants. But as I told you, metals are bioactive material, but they are means bio-inert material. They are not bioactive material. Okay, so these are the three things we have to consider while choosing any bioceramic or a biomaterials. And after that, after realizing some scaffold or bioceramics, we have to carry out some tests, right? Some physical tests we have to carry out, and then mechanical tests we have to perform. Then most importantly, we have to see the biological test. in lab scale as well as in the animal study also. So there are big animal study and small animal study will be there. So once we go through all this testing, then only we'll able to fix this bioscaffolds in a patient. Okay, so we have to get some clearance on that. So, but in our research point of view, at least we can make some mechanical study, or we can propose some scaffold design using directing writing techniques, using bioceramics. So now we'll come to that the directing writing of ceramic alumina, which we carried out in our lab. Okay. So here, so as I told you, your ink design is the most important thing when you consider directing writing. So here we have taken alumina particle, which is having a size of 45 nanometer of spherical. You can see from the SEM morphology, you can see it's a spherical nature. Okay, so spherical nature will cause the flow. The exclusion will be more easier if as compared to so angular irregular shapes. Okay, so here I have taken a binder material as PVA, polyvinyl alcohol. So why I have taken polyvinyl alcohol is both are biocompatible. So alumina is a bioceramic, and my polymer is also biocompatible. So PVA is a polyvinyl alcohol, which is a biocompatible material. So first we have to prepare a PVA gel. Okay, so at different proportions we have to make that PVA gel. So then PVA gel will be mixed with alumina powder using a mechanical stirrer, or any you can use, if you have ball mill, you can use that for preparing the gel. Okay, so now this ceramic particle will be uniformly distributed in that gel. Okay, so here we have taken different composition, 50% of volume of alumina as well as 55% of volume of alumina. Okay, so how we arrived this is, so as I told from the literature, it is showing that we have to choose 50 to 80. So why I have not tried beyond 55 is it is I have to apply higher pressure, and also the proper exclusion of the slurry is not taking place beyond that. So these things you have to find it by using trial and error method. So I have made the slurry in this as shown figure like this. So we printed, first we printed a rectangle like this. See here you can see without applying any bed temperature, I got the structure like this. So when I applied this temperature, so somewhat, so this is our first work. Okay, which we carried out using our 3D printer. Okay, these are the parameters which is shown. So this is our starting. So from this basic information, we try to optimize the suitable parameter for realizing a circular structure like this. Here we see in the second viewer that the structure got fully damaged. So because of the low slurry concentration. So it means the slurry is not having sufficient strength to withstand your the next layer printed layer. Okay, and also the more, because of the larger size of the nozzle, the more deposition is taking place. That's why this structure got collapsed compared to this. See, this one is very so it's a fully damaged one because of very high nozzle, very high pressure, and this viscosity is not sufficient for because it is not exhibiting the shear thinning effect. So that's why. So here also it is not able to stack. So here in this second one, you can see that the structure is not rigid enough to withstand the layers. So it's got collapsed. So we have to do some trial and error. So finally we achieved it. Not good, but comparatively better structure with the help of this parameter. So with this, I will show you the video which so here we are able to print. I hope we can see the screen, right? The video also. Anyone can respond. Can you see the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, this is a 0.6 mm nozzle. With that, we are able to create a circular structure like this. See, the printed layer is having a suitable rheological property so that it is rigid enough to withstand the next printed layer. So this is how we started our work. So we are able to print a structure like this. Honeycomb structure also we printed. So there's a lot of trail work we have done to achieve a structure, to print a structure like this. So here you see this wall thickness is 0.6, so which is near equal to this nozzle diameter. So without any deformation or without any distortion, we are able to fabricate a circular structure like this. So okay, just to demonstration, so with the using same technique, we able to print a rectangular structure also. So here I have shown. Okay, so this height is around 50 mm, 5 centimeter. We are able to print without any collapse in the structure. Okay, so finally we arrived at a composition of 55. So now, so with this pneumatic type of extrusion system, we can handle this slurry of 55%. But now we are trying to develop a screw extrusion in order to have a higher, in order to handle the higher viscosity value. Because I told, so whenever if you are increasing the solid loading, your part strength will also increases. So obviously this is alumina. I have to sintering this sample at a higher temperature around 2000 sintering temperature for a different thermal cycle. So that time it may cause that may cause some kind of shrinkage or a cracking of this structure can take place. That is another challenge we have to face. So as of now, what we have done in our lab is only that green body we have fabricated. The next level is we have to sinter this part, and we'll see how that sintering will affect the mechanical properties. So it will take time. So this is we try to develop some honeycomb structures. So these are the trail works we have done. So what we can see, these are some of the printed structures, the honeycomb, circular structures. This is the rectangle I shown. So this is the scaffold structure. So as I shown previously. So with this directing writing, we are able to print this spanning structure like this. So still some lot of optimization work is going on this to find the optimum slurry compositions. So this is a fully solid alumina specimen we created for compression testing. Okay. So these are the works which we are doing at in my lab. So now we'll see some of the case studies based on the directing writing, which are already available in the reference in the literature. So here we can see this is a porous scaffold. So this scaffold is for this your lower jaw. Okay. So this model they created using Mimic software. So from the scan data, what they will do, that's scan the lower jaw, this one. So this here, the right hand side is got damaged. This much portion is got damaged. So what they will do, they will mirror that left hand side, and so we'll create that missing part. So this one we can, this model we can create through Mimic software from the CT scan or MRI scan. Okay. So finally, after printing this, we have to print the scaffold structure like this. So they have created this structure, hydroxyapatite, so which is a bioresorbable material, biocompatible material using directing writing technique. So then they implanted to the patient, they got success also. So these are reported literatures. And the second case study is, so they inspired this tree, the cactus leaf, this configuration. So because of this configuration, we can improve the surface area. So if more surface means more cell will grow over that surface. Okay, so easily uh, the faster rate of recovery also, will take place. Okay, so the patient will recover easily from any bone defect or any diseases. So they inspired from this cactus leaf, and they try to develop this, inspire that design. So that is called biomimetics. So this is also hydroxyapatite they tried with this directing writing techniques. These are some of the examples or case studies I would like. So this is another example where we can introduce the fiber in that slurry in a ceramic ink, so that we can improve its mechanical properties. So whenever we introduce a short fiber in that structure or ink, we can improve its mechanical properties. At the same time, we can reduce the weight also, lightweight application, the porous structures. These porous structures, they inspired from this wood cross section, balasa wood cross section we can see. So they try to mimic this shape, right? So there is a lot of scopes available in directing writing as compared to the other techniques. Okay. So here we can try metal, ceramics as well as composite materials. So whenever you mix two materials, it will become a composite. As I told you, in order to improve that, in order to overcome the disadvantages associated with the bioceramics, so we are trying to add some metal materials in that. So that will be the second phase we are planning. And this directing writing technique has wide range of application in biomedical as well as electronic application. Here you can see the graphene. Graphene has high conductivity, so that can used for electronic application also. So we tried a electronic circuit also. So one of my PhD student is working on that. So he developed some ink with a uh, uh, this one Pluronics ink embedded with the CND particles, and he tried some circuits and he is measuring its electrical properties. But one of the disadvantages is that if you are going for a polymers, we have to go for a high conductive polymers. So because the conductivity of this polymers is too low as compared to metal, so you have to choose a suitable polymer material. That's why I told you. So those who wish to work, they should have a collaboration with any chemical or any chemistry person. So in order to understand the physics behind selecting the binder, solvent, and dispersing agent. So this is another biomimetic design they inspired from the nature. It's a lotus leaf fruit. So lotus leaf fruit has a porous or a hole like this. So they the same schema, same geometry they adopted in designing a biomimetic scaffold like this. So this will, so as I told you, if the basic requirement of a scaffold for biomedical application, it should have some interconnected pores. So these interconnected pores act as the location for the cell growth. Okay, so more cell will grow. At the same time, it should not cause any it should the mechanical properties also at the same time it should be good. Okay, so they modified the extrusion nozzle. So nozzle head they modified and they tried to develop different strut structure like this. So find the layer. No, this is a one strut which is having a one central hole. So but in this see two numbers you can see 3, 4. So if more number of porous stress means they can improve the cell growth. Okay. So these kind of things, scaffold we can use for bone tissue engineering. So this is what the co-extrusion technique. So here you have two materials, so that we have to modify the nozzle. But whether I don't know it is feasible to modify the nozzle or not. But we have to. But this nozzle having a size very tiny, 0.4 to 0.5. So we have to go for any laser cutting or some suitable technique we have to see. And there will be two paths, and through these two paths they will be ejecting two different materials so as to get a structure, hollow structure like this. So these holes or pores are provided, as I told you, for a biomedical application to enhance the cell growth. Okay, so by simply modifying the nozzle, they can achieve, they are able to achieve. But the spanning and all, we have to be very careful by modifying the ink. So with this, I have come to the end of my presentation. So, by keeping all the things in mind, so our lab is trying to develop. As I told you, we need a lot of basic information regarding how the material deposition is taking place, how the flow is taking place. We should know the basic thermofluidic mechanism. So we are also trying to learn that. And as I told you, there are a lot of parameters will influence your printed part quality and its mechanical properties. So we are trying to optimize the printing speed, nozzle means the standard distance and flow rate, etc. So after printing, we have to carry out some mechanical testing as well as microstructural testing, whether we are getting a uniform print and how this printing parameter will influence the mechanical properties. So these things we have to do. So we are also focusing on that. And finally, when it comes to the biomedical application, so the accuracy and resolution and the repeatability. So if I'm getting each time each shape or each dimensions, so then we cannot ensure the repeatability of my instrument. So I have to ensure the repeatability by designing a suitable control system. So that also we are working. So as I told you, now we are using pneumatic based extrusion system. Instead of pneumatic, we are planning for a screw type extrusion where we can handle precise control of flow as well as we can handle high viscosity. So these are the focus. So apart from this direct ink writing, we are working on fused deposition modeling, and we are developing some structures which is inspired from the bamboo tree cross section. Here you see that this is a cross section of the bamboo tree. It will be like a forest. So based on this, we created some porous structure like this. So here it is a circular structure, rectangular and circular with some interconnections, and the triangular structures. So anyone can, if you have a FDM printer, you can try these kind of. So, but you have to see what is the biomimetic structure, what are the design we can see. So the God is the best engineer. You can inspire from the nature, and that design you can use it for solving our daily life problems or something. So here, this kind of structure we can use it for shock absorbing scaffold or a lattice structure like this. So we are also working on that. So see, so as I told you, the 3D printing has a lot of application in different field like biomedical, aerospace, um, automobile industries. Everywhere you have a lot of scope. Okay, so now all the your conventional manufacturing techniques have been replaced by this additive manufacturing technique in order to achieve a specific targets, right? Okay, in order to achieve high strength material, or in order to get a new material like or multi material or a composite material like that. But in the case of a biomedical, so the next level is developing the organs like heart, ear, or a kidney like this, because in India also there is a lot of transplantation is taking place. For organ transplantation, we need a donor, but because of the scarcity in the donor, it is the scarcity in donor, the patient is not getting treated with the help of this transplantation. So if we are able to create an organ through artificial organ from this through bioprinting, so bioprinting we can use it. So it's work on the direct ink writing technique. So in that ink we will embedding cell, so which will create the tissue like this, your required tissue. So there is a lot of research going on the bioprinting. So based on the direct ink writing. Also this KFC, they also printed the artificial meat using a direct ink writing technique. For food printing also, we are using direct ink writing technique. So not only this, there are a lot of challenges and opportunities available in direct ink writing. As I told you, you can develop a new ink or a new material. Okay, so in order to get a required functionality and required mechanical properties by combining 2 or 3 materials. Right, as I told you, ceramics have some disadvantage, like they have a high modulus value and low impact uh, strength or a fracture toughness. So how we can overcome is with adding some kind of polymer, or it can be adding some kind of metals. So the professor from IIC Bangalore, Vikramjit Basu, he is working on improving the fracture toughness of ceramics by adding metals. So he is working binder that 3D printing. So he is working. And so, as I told you, the critical thing in directing writing is preparation of the ink. So you should have a good knowledge with the bonding between your ceramic particle and polymer, and the basic mechanism, and how we can prepare a homogeneous mixer, homogeneous ink out of the selected binder and ceramic particle. So we need some chemistry and some kind of uh, collaboration with chemistry people, and so that is very challenging. So if you're able to address these issues, so then you can create a very good product out of ceramics, which can be used for structural and any functional or biological application. So this is my talk. So I hope I'm able to cover some. So I have not gone into the depth of each factors, but on a peripheral view, I have given some idea. Right. So with this, I'm stopping. So if you have any, so I'm on time, I think. So if you have any queries, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very detailed and informative presentation, sir.
Okay.
May I request participants to clarify the doubts if they have any. Please unmute your mic and ask it to the expert. Thank you. Participants, if you have any query, kindly unmute your mic and raise your questions to the expert.
Okay. So.
Okay,
So I hope that I am able to cover the basics of directing writing. So later you can work on this area, and you can dig it in a deeper way. So if you are working on any if you are a research scholar or some faculty who wish to work on this area. So through this talk, I will able to give a peripheral view.
Excuse me, am I audible?
Yes, I can give it.
Sir, this food material used for food, will that not cause any side effect or anything?
It won't cause any side effect. So because they started from this no artificial meat cell. So as of now, there is no data available on its adverse effect. So this news came 1 year back, I think. You can see it in the Google. So it started in Russia, I hope so.
Earlier session also he was telling about you can make your own pizza, everything.
Yes.
So I was just thinking,
yes.
Won't that be like again another type of junk food which children start?
Yes. Some works are there. Some cookies they have made with this one functionally means so each person need their own appetite, right? They need different kind of protein or something. So we can make this cookies with so instead of one nozzle, you can have a 5 or 6 nozzle. So
the material might be the same, maida, sugar, and things like that, sir. Okay. That is the doubt I had. What about the material?
Some articles are available. You can refer.
Okay, sir.
The technique they are using is directing writing.
Yes,
it's in the basement. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. If you have any queries, you can share your queries with me, I have given my mail ID, so you can write to me. So,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So on behalf of Murugappa Polytechnic and on behalf of Mechanical Engineering Department and on behalf of all the participants, I extended our heartiest thanks to you, sir. You readily accepted our invitation to be a part of this FDP and delivered a session and delivered the knowledge you acquired during your research activities to the participants. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining with us. Thank you.
yeah, once again, I wish all the participants all the best. And thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. It's my pleasure to share my knowledge. So, as a researcher, we should look forward to see this kind of platform where we can have a good interaction with the participant.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.